My name is Emily, and for years I thought I was living a fairy tale. From the outside, my life looked perfect. A beautiful home, a charming husband, and a love story that everyone around us admired. My husband, Daniel, was everything a woman could dream of: handsome, successful, respected. He had this confidence that drew people to him instantly. And me? I was the wife who supported him, encouraged him, stood by him through every challenge. For 7 years, I poured my soul into our marriage. I gave up my own career to manage our home, to make his life easier, to keep us strong. Because I believed in us. I believed in him. But love, I learned, can blind you to the truth. And the truth was, my perfect husband was hiding something. It began with little changes. Daniel used to call me every evening as he left work. "Emily, I'm on my way. Get dinner ready, I'm starving," he'd say, his voice full of warmth. We'd laugh, eat, and talk about our dreams. But slowly, that stopped. His calls became rare. His texts were short, distracted, and his homecomings grew later and later. "Work is overwhelming," he'd sigh, loosening his tie. "I'm doing this for us, for our future." And I wanted to believe him. I told myself not to doubt. That's what trust is, right? One night, I decided to surprise him. I cooked his favorite meal, pasta with homemade garlic bread, the one he always begged for. I lit candles, set the table beautifully, and waited with a smile. But the hours dragged on. 9 p.m. came. Then 10. By 11, my smile had vanished. My phone buzzed at last. "Sorry, late meeting." "Don't wait up." I stared at the untouched food, the flickering candles, and felt a heaviness settle in my chest. For the first time, a thought crept in. What if it isn't just work? Daniel grew more secretive as the days passed. He guarded his phone like it was gold, turning the screen away from me, even taking calls in another room. Sometimes I'd hear him laughing softly behind closed doors, a laugh I hadn't heard directed at me in months. One evening while he showered, his phone lit up on the nightstand. I glanced and my heart stopped. A message flashed across the screen. "I miss you already. Last night was perfect." The sender's name? Just the letter R. My whole body went cold. My hands shook as tears blurred my vision. I wanted to throw the phone, scream, demand answers. But instead, I sat frozen, my heart shattering silently. Because deep down, I knew. My husband was cheating on me. But here's the thing. Anger didn't come right away. Not even rage. Just a suffocating numbness. And then, clarity. If Daniel was betraying me, I needed to know more. I needed proof. Confronting him without it would only give him room to twist the truth, to make me feel like the crazy one. So I wiped my tears, steadied my voice, and pretended everything was fine. When he came out of the shower, I smiled and asked, "How was your day?" He didn't notice my trembling hands. He didn't notice the storm building inside me. Because he thought he was untouchable. Weeks passed. His excuses piled up. More business trips. More late meetings. But every time his phone buzzed, I felt that knife twist deeper in my chest. Then one night, I couldn't take it anymore. Daniel said he'd be working late again. My instincts screamed otherwise. So I grabbed my keys, slipped into my car, and followed him. I parked near his office building, hiding in the shadows. My pulse raced. Minutes later, he walked out. But he didn't look tired or stressed. He looked happy, almost glowing. And then I saw her. A woman stepped out from the corner, her heels clicking against the pavement. She smiled at him, and without hesitation, Daniel wrapped his arms around her. They laughed. They kissed under the dim streetlight as if no one in the world existed but them. My world shattered. I gripped the steering wheel so hard it hurt, tears blurring my sight. Every second I watched them felt like poison seeping through my veins. My husband, my marriage, my love, it was all a lie. But then, as the woman turned slightly, the light revealed her face, and my breath caught in my throat. It wasn't just some stranger. It was Rachel, my own cousin. I sat in my car, frozen, staring at them as if the world had stopped spinning. Daniel's hand brushed Rachel's cheek, and she giggled the way she used to when we were kids. But this time, the laughter wasn't innocent. It was cruel, mocking, a dagger straight into my chest. Rachel, my cousin, my blood. The girl I had grown up with, shared secrets with, trusted like a sister. How could she do this to me? My head spun, and I struggled to breathe. Betrayed not only by my husband, but by family. It felt like my entire world had been stripped away in one cruel instant. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, telling myself not to cry, not to scream, not to march over and cause a scene. No, if Daniel thought he could make me a fool, I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of knowing I knew. Not yet. Because in that moment, a seed of revenge began to take root in me. When I finally got home, I collapsed onto the bed, my whole body trembling. My mind replayed the image over and over, Daniel kissing her, Rachel smiling as if she had won. I wanted answers. I wanted to know how long this had been happening. I wanted to know how two people I trusted most could betray me so deeply. But most of all, I wanted to make them pay. The next morning, Daniel came home late, smelling faintly of her perfume. I recognized it instantly, floral, expensive, not mine. Long night? I asked softly, hiding the venom in my voice. He smiled, kissed my forehead as if nothing was wrong, and said, "Yeah, just paperwork. You know how it is." I nodded, forcing a smile, even though my stomach churned with disgust. Inside, I made myself a promise. Keep pretending, Emily. Keep smiling. Let him think you're blind. And then, when the time is right, strike. Over the next few days, I became an actress in my own marriage. I played the part of the loving, trusting wife. I cooked his meals, ironed his shirts, listened to his lies, all while collecting pieces of the puzzle. I started watching his patterns. What nights he worked late, which weekends he traveled for business. I noted every excuse, every story that didn't add up. And when he slipped, I was ready. One night, he left his laptop open in the living room. While he showered, I slipped into his email. My hands shook, but I forced myself to stay calm as I clicked through. And there it was, dozens of emails between him and Rachel. I felt sick reading them. "You look stunning tonight. I can't stop thinking about you. I wish Emily wasn't in the picture. I want you. Only you. Soon, love, soon." Each word sliced deeper, but instead of breaking me, it fueled me. Because now, I had proof. Later that night, I lay next to him in bed, pretending to sleep as he texted under the covers. He thought he was clever, but I was 2 steps ahead now. I turned onto my side, watching his silhouette glow in the light of his phone. I whispered softly, "I love you." He froze for a second, then mumbled, "Love you too, His voice was flat, distracted, fake. I smiled in the dark, because I knew the truth. And soon, he would too. But Rachel, she was a different story. I couldn't stop thinking about her. Memories of us as little girls playing dress up, whispering secrets late at night. She was the one who comforted me when I had my first heartbreak. She was the one who stood by me at my wedding, smiling as I said, "I do." And now she was the one destroying my marriage. I wanted to confront her, to scream in her face, to ask how she could betray me like this. But I held back. Because revenge tastes sweeter when it's served cold. One evening, Daniel told me he'd be working late again. I nodded, kissed his cheek, and wished him luck. The second he left, I grabbed my coat and followed. This time, I didn't stay in the shadows. I parked closer. I wanted to see everything clearly, no doubts, no second guessing. And what I saw shattered me all over again. They weren't just meeting in secret. They were having dinner together, laughing like a couple. He held her hand across the table, his eyes locked on hers like she was his whole world. It was a cruel mirror of the life I thought I had. I sat there, fists clenched, nails digging into my palms. But then, I noticed something else. Rachel wasn't just playing along. She looked comfortable, confident, almost smug. And then I heard it. Through the half-open window, her voice drifted out, sharp and deliberate. "So, when are you leaving Emily?" My breath caught. Daniel chuckled softly, leaned back in his chair, and said, "Soon. She's too naive to see it. I'll handle her." The words rang in my ears like thunder. Knave. That's what he thought of me. A fool. Someone to be discarded like yesterday's trash. But oh, how wrong he was. I drove home that night with fire in my veins. They thought I was blind, helpless, weak. But I was about to show them just how dangerous a betrayed woman could be. Because my plan for revenge was no longer just about exposing them. It was about making them crawl. The very next morning, I began setting my trap. And Daniel didn't even notice that the first move of my revenge had already begun. The morning after I overheard Daniel promising Rachel he'd handle me, I stared at my reflection in the mirror for a long time. The woman looking back wasn't weak. She wasn't naive. She was sharper, colder, more dangerous than ever before. If Daniel thought I was going to sit back while he and Rachel planned a future over the ruins of my marriage, he was in for the cruelest surprise of his life. I started small, quiet, invisible. That morning, as Daniel left for work, I kissed his cheek and whispered, "Good luck, love." He smiled, oblivious, not knowing that I had slipped a tiny recording device into his briefcase. That night, while he showered, I listened. My heart pounded as his voice filled the room. He wasn't talking about clients or contracts. He was talking to her. "Rachel, she's completely in the dark. Just a little longer and I'll have everything sorted. Trust me, she won't fight back." My stomach twisted, but I forced myself to keep listening. "Don't worry about money. Once things are finalized, we'll be set. I promise." Money. So it wasn't just love. He was planning to use me, take everything, and then throw me away. That was the moment I knew. My revenge couldn't just break their hearts. It had to break their lives. The next step was financial. Daniel always thought I was terrible with money. He insisted on handling our accounts, saying, "Emily, it's too complicated. Don't stress yourself." I let him believe that. But what he didn't know was that I had quietly kept track of every penny, every account, every asset. And I still had full access. That week, while he was busy sneaking around with Rachel, I began quietly moving small amounts of money into a private account under my name. Nothing big enough to raise suspicion. Just a slow, steady drip. He thought I was blind. But in reality, I was bleeding him dry, dollar by dollar. Meanwhile, I played the perfect wife. I cooked, I smiled, I listened to his lies. At night, when he claimed he was exhausted from work, I pretended to believe him. But behind that mask, I was digging deeper. I started following Rachel, watching her. I learned her routines, her favorite spots, her weaknesses. And that's when I discovered something interesting. Rachel wasn't just with Daniel. She had debts, serious debts. Credit cards maxed out, loan sharks calling her. She was using Daniel not just for love, but for survival. And suddenly, it clicked. They weren't just betraying me. They were planning to build their shiny little future using my husband's money. My house. my life. No, I wouldn't let that happen. One night, Daniel came home late again. His tie was loose, his shirt wrinkled. He smelled faintly of Rachel's perfume. I pretended not to notice. "How was work?" I asked sweetly. He kissed my forehead and said, "Stressful, but I'll get through it." "You're my anchor, Emily." Anchor. The word almost made me laugh. He had no idea I was the storm that was about to drown him. The next phase of my plan began with Rachel herself. I called her one afternoon, using a private number. When she answered, I disguised my voice, keeping it low and sharp. "Rachel Green? We know about your debts. Pay up, or things will get messy." Her silence told me everything. She was scared. And scared people make mistakes. Over the next few days, I watched as she became jumpy, nervous. Daniel noticed too. At dinner, he muttered about how Rachel's been stressed lately. I bit back a smile. Good, I thought. Let her sweat. But I wasn't done with Daniel yet. I wanted to test how far he'd go. So one evening, I looked at him across the dinner table and said softly, "Daniel, do you ever think we should start a family? Maybe a baby?" For a split second, his fork froze midair. His eyes flickered with panic. Then he forced a smile. "Of course, Emily. Someday. Just not right now. Too much going on at work." I nodded, hiding the sting in my chest, because that moment told me everything. He had no intention of building a family with me. His future wasn't with me at all. It was with her. But fate has a funny way of turning the tables. 2 nights later, while pretending to be asleep, I overheard Daniel on the phone. His voice was hushed but urgent. "Rachel, calm down. We can't rush this. Emily's too trusting. She won't suspect a thing. Just let me handle it. A few more weeks and she'll be out of the picture. For good. Out of the picture." Those words sent a chill through me. He wasn't just planning to leave me. He was planning to destroy me. And in that instant, I realized my revenge couldn't wait. The next day, I put my plan into motion. I gathered the evidence, the emails, the recordings, the proof of Rachel's debts, the photos of them together. I compiled everything neatly into a folder. But instead of confronting Daniel, I reached out to his business partner, Mr. Collins. Daniel had always bragged about how Collins trusted him completely. What Collins didn't know was that while Daniel was busy with Rachel, he had been cutting corners at work, lying, manipulating, covering his tracks. And now I had proof of that too. When I slid the folder across Collins' desk, his face turned pale. "Where did you get all this?" he asked. I smiled coldly. "Let's just say Daniel isn't who you think he is." That night, I came home and cooked Daniel's favorite dinner. I laughed at his jokes, poured his wine, kissed his cheek. And all the while, I knew his world was already crumbling behind his back. But the best part? He had no idea that the woman sitting across from him, the wife he thought was blind and naive, was the very one pulling the strings. The next morning, Daniel received a call that made his face turn white. His career, his reputation, everything he had worked for, was about to collapse. And he had no idea I was the one who lit the match. The next morning, I watched Daniel pace the living room with his phone pressed to his ear. His face was pale, his jaw tight, his voice trembling. "What do you mean, Collins?" he snapped. "There must be a mistake." I handled those numbers correctly. He froze, listening. His free hand raked through his hair in frustration. "No. Please, give me a chance to fix this. Don't pull the contract." "Collins, listen to me." The call ended. The silence afterward was deafening. I leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, feigning concern. "Is everything okay, Daniel?" He spun toward me, eyes wide, sweat beading at his forehead. Yeah, it's fine. Just business stuff. Nothing to worry about." I smiled sweetly. Business stuff. Oh, if only he knew how much business he was about to lose. Over the next week, his empire began to crumble. Investors pulled out. Contracts dissolved. Rumors spread. I had lit the fire, and now I stood back, watching it consume everything he had built. But Daniel had no idea I was behind it. He thought he was just unlucky. And while his professional life collapsed, I tightened the noose on his personal one too. Rachel. She was getting desperate. Her debts were catching up with her, and Daniel's promises weren't enough anymore. I knew because I was the one making the anonymous calls to her, reminding her of every dollar she owed. One night, I followed her again. She met Daniel in the same quiet restaurant. Her voice, sharp and panicked, carried through the window. "You promised me. You said you'd leave her, that we'd be together. Do you know how much I've risked?" Daniel rubbed his face, clearly stressed. "Just give me time. I'm handling it, Rachel." But she wasn't satisfied. She slammed her hand on the table. "I don't want promises, Daniel. I want results." I sat back in my car, smirking. The cracks in their fairy tale romance were already showing. At home, I played my part to perfection. One evening, I set the table with his favorite meal. He came in looking drained, his shoulders sagging. I touched his arm gently. "You've been so stressed lately, Daniel. Maybe we should take a weekend trip. Just us. Clear your head?" For a second, guilt flickered in his eyes. He kissed my forehead and muttered, "You're too good to me, Emily." Good. That's what he thought I was. Too good. Too naive. Too forgiving. But in reality, I was the storm he never saw coming. Then came the night everything shifted. Daniel staggered through the door, drunk. His tie was loose, his eyes bloodshot. He collapsed onto the couch, muttering under his breath. I sat beside him, calm, patient. "Daniel, talk to me. What's going on?" He laughed bitterly. "What's going on? My life is falling apart, Emily. Collins doesn't trust me. Investors are walking away. And Rachel." He stopped abruptly, realizing what he had said. My pulse quickened. "Rachel?" I asked softly, feigning confusion. His eyes widened, but then he waved a hand dismissively. "Just a client. Don't worry about it. A client." If only he knew how much I already knew. That night, as he snored beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. I had broken his career. I had shaken his mistress. But it wasn't enough. No, he needed to feel what I had felt. The humiliation. The betrayal. The heartbreak. And for that, I needed to confront him. But not yet. Not until the stage was perfectly set. A few days later, Rachel made her move. She showed up at our house. I opened the door, and there she stood, dressed impeccably, her lips painted crimson, her eyes daring me. "Emily," she said smoothly, "is Daniel home?" My heart pounded, but I forced a polite smile. "He's not here." "Can I help you?" She smirked, tilting her head. "Oh, I think you know who I am by now." Her boldness stunned me. She wanted me to know. She wanted me broken. But instead of screaming, I simply stepped aside and gestured toward the living room. "Why don't you come in?" Her smirk faltered slightly. She wasn't expecting that. We sat across from each other, the silence heavy. Finally, she leaned forward. "You deserve the truth, Emily. Daniel doesn't love you anymore." "He loves me. He's going to leave you. It's just a matter of time." Her words cut deep, but I refused to flinch. Instead, I smiled coldly. "Then why hasn't he?" Her eyes flickered. For the first time, I saw uncertainty. Because she knew. She knew Daniel was all talk. He hadn't left me, and maybe he never would. I leaned closer, my voice low. You think you've won, Rachel. But trust me, you have no idea what game you're playing. Before she could respond, the front door opened. Daniel stepped in, his eyes widening in horror as he saw us together. Emily, Rachel, what's going on? Rachel stood, crossing her arms. I'm tired of hiding, Daniel. She deserves to know. I turned to him slowly, my expression calm, almost serene. Yes, Daniel. I deserve to know. So why don't you tell me everything? His face drained of color. He stammered, his eyes darting between us. And in that moment, I knew I had him exactly where I wanted him. Daniel dropped to his knees, his voice breaking. Emily, please. Let me explain. But I wasn't sure if I wanted explanations anymore. What I wanted was revenge, and this was only the beginning. Daniel fell to his knees, his hands clutching the air like a drowning man searching for something to hold on to. His eyes, red and desperate, looked up at me as if I were the only lifeline left. Emily, please. Let me explain, he whispered, his voice cracking. I folded my arms across my chest, cold and unyielding. Explain? Daniel, what exactly are you going to explain? That you've been lying to me? That you've been sneaking around with her? I tilted my head toward Rachel, who stood smugly behind him, her lips curved in a victorious smirk. For once, Daniel didn't look at her. He kept his gaze locked on me. It wasn't supposed to happen. I never meant for it to go this far. Rachel scoffed loudly. Oh, don't you dare downplay this, Daniel. You told me you loved me. You told me you were going to leave her. The room turned into a battlefield. Daniel's head snapped toward her. Rachel, not now. But I raised a hand, silencing him. No, Daniel. Let her talk. I want to hear every word. Rachel's eyes glistened with triumph. She stepped forward. Fine. I'll tell you, Emily. Your perfect husband promised me the world. He told me I was his future, that you were just. An obligation he hadn't figured out how to let go of yet. The words sliced through me like knives, but I refused to show the pain. I had prepared for this moment. I turned back to Daniel, my voice trembling, but not from weakness, from contained fury. Is that true? He shook his head frantically. No, Emily, please. I was confused. She meant nothing compared to you. You are my wife. You are my everything. Rachel laughed bitterly. Nothing? You told me you couldn't stand the sight of her anymore. I felt my stomach lurch, but I held my ground. Daniel dropped his face into his hands. He looked like a man whose world had crumbled, and it had. But what he didn't know was that I was the one who had kicked the first stone. The silence stretched. Then I finally spoke. Daniel, you destroyed us. You destroyed me. And now everything you built, everything you loved, is slipping through your fingers. Doesn't that feel familiar? He looked up, confusion flickering across his face. What do you mean? Rachel frowned. What's she talking about? I stepped closer, lowering my voice so that every word hit him like a hammer. The investors leaving you. The contracts dissolving. The whispers behind your back. Did you think that was just bad luck? No, Daniel. That was me. I made the calls. I pulled the strings. I set the fire under your empire. His jaw dropped. Rachel gasped. You, what? Daniel's voice was barely audible. I straightened my spine, my anger finally unleashed. I was your loyal wife, Daniel. I stood by you when no one believed in you. I gave you everything, my trust, my love, my life. And what did you do? You betrayed me. You humiliated me. So I made sure you would know exactly what betrayal feels like. He shook his head in disbelief, his body trembling. Emily, no, you wouldn't. I did. I spat. And I'd do it again. Rachel's smirk vanished. She stepped back, muttering, "You're insane." I shot her a cold look. "You think you've won, Rachel? Look at him. He's broken. He's nothing. And you were just a pawn. He used you. He never intended to leave me, not really. That's why you're standing here today, desperate for scraps of his attention." Her face twisted with rage. She turned to Daniel. "Is that true? Was I just a distraction for you?" Daniel's silence was the only answer she needed. Furious, Rachel stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Now it was just me and him. Daniel crawled toward me on his knees, his tears streaming. "Emily, please. I've lost everything, my business, my reputation. Don't take you away from me too. I can't live without you. Please, forgive me." I stared down at him, this man who once stood tall and proud, now reduced to nothing but a broken shell. And for a brief moment, my heart wavered. This was the man I had once loved. The man I had built dreams with. But then I remembered the nights I cried myself to sleep, the image of him with Rachel replaying in my mind, the humiliation of knowing I wasn't enough for him. I crouched down, close enough for him to see the fire in my eyes. "You should have thought of that before you betrayed me, Daniel." His lips quivered. "Please, just one more chance." I shook my head slowly. "You don't deserve another chance. And I don't deserve to waste another second of my life on a man who never valued me." The next morning, I left. I packed my bags quietly while he lay asleep, exhausted from his endless begging. I didn't leave a note. I didn't need to. By the time he woke up, I was gone. I started fresh, new job, new apartment, new life. For the first time in years, I felt free. Daniel tried to reach me. Calls, messages, letters. He even showed up once, standing outside my door in the rain, crying, begging. But I never opened it, because I had already closed that chapter. Do I regret it? No. He betrayed our marriage. He destroyed everything we had. But in the end, I took back my power. I showed him that I wasn't weak, that I wasn't his victim. And though he begged for forgiveness, I never gave it to him. Because sometimes, the sweetest revenge is walking away. The end.